Hello, guys. Hello, hello. This is Noah, and we are here to do story time. A late story time. But when I had my nephews yesterday, you know the drill. So, uh, we're gonna finish reading Peter Pan, and this is chapter 3, and it says, "Come away, come away." So here we go. Let's see what kind of antics they get into today. In the baby princess of the pretty eyes. Yes, William does. Alright. Shortly after Mr. and Mrs. Darling left the house, the night lights in the nursery went out. In their place was another much brighter light. It flew about the room, zipping from drawer to closet, and as if for looking for something. It came to rest on top of a dresser. It turned out not to be a light at all, but a tiny fairy, no bigger than a fist. She was dressed in an exquisite gown made from a leaf, and her name was, that's right, Tinker Bell. The children did not see her because they were sound asleep. A moment later, the windows flew open and Peter dropped in. "Tink!" he called. "Where are you?" He spied her. "Inside a glass jug. Come out of there and tell me where to find my shadow." The sound of tiny bells filled the room. It was a fairy talk, and it told Peter his shadow was in the chest of drawers. Peter emptied the drawers one by one until he found his missing shadow. He was so pleased to have his shadow back. He slammed the drawer closed without looking. Tinker Bell was left inside. Uh-oh. Peter tried to stick his shadow to his feet, but it would not stick. He wet it and rubbed it with soap, but it didn't. But the shadow refused to stay put. Peter sat on the floor and began to cry. "This woke Wendy. Why are you crying?" she said. Peter stood and bowed and gracefully, the way he had learned from the fairies. Wendy stood up in bed and bowed back. "What's your name?" Peter asked. "Wendy, Maria, Angelica, Darling." Wendy replied. "What's yours?" "Peter Pan," Peter said. "Where do you live?" Wendy asked. Peter glanced out the window, second to the right, and then straight on, till morning. He said, "What a funny address." Wendy said, "Is that what they write on your letters?" Peter frowned. I don't get letters," he said. "Well, that is, oh my goodness. Well, is that what they write on your mother's letters?" Wendy asked politely. "I don't have a mother," Peter said quickly, "and I don't care to have one." Wendy went to Peter's side. "No wonder you were crying," she said. There they are arguing. My goodness, huh? Noah. Good thing who got a mommy, huh? Oh, dude. "I wasn't crying about mothers," Peter said indulgently. "My shadow won't stay on." "How awful," Wendy said, as she examined the wrinkled shadow. "I shall sew it on." And then, with a needle and thread, she did just that. The moment the shadow was attached, Peter leaped with joy. "How clever I am," he said, "for getting it was Wendy, and not he who repaired his shadow. You are very conceited, Wendy said, and cocky too. She was upset. Peter changed his tone. Don't be upset, Wendy, he said sweetly. You are worth 20 boys. Wendy could not resist. Do you really think so, Peter? She asked. Yes, I do, Peter replied. He sat down on the side of the bed next to Wendy. Then I shall give you a kiss, Wendy said. Peter put out his hand to receive thee. And there she is, sewing the shadow back on Peter. Peter. So, waiting on his kiss. He did not know what a kiss was. Wendy quickly handed him a thimble so his feelings would not be hurt. In return, Peter gave her an acorn button. She accepted it gracefully. I shall wear it on a chain around my neck, she said. How fortunate that would be, though. Just now Wendy could not know. Hang on. Wendy could not know why. Wendy was very interested in Peter. And how old are you? She asked. Peter squirmed. I don't know. He said, I ran away the day I was born. Why did you do a thing like that? Peter was very uncomfortable. Heard my father and mother talking about what I should be when I grow up, he said at last. Then, looking Wendy straight in the eye, he said sharply, I don't ever want to be grown up. I want to stay a little boy and have fun, and that's why I ran away to live with the fairies. Wendy's fascination grew. She asked dozens of questions about fairies. They seemed quite marvelous because her own life was so ordinary. Peter was surprised because fairies were a nuisance to him, even though he admitted he mostly liked them. Fairies began when the first baby laughed. Peter explained. The laugh broke into thousands of pieces, and each became a fairy. Every boy and girl should have one, he added, but they don't believe in fairies. He turned quite serious. Did you know that each time a child says, I don't believe in fairies, a fairy dies? Uh-oh. Not good. Suddenly, Peter remembered Tinker Bell, who had remained very quiet. Tink, he called. Wendy was thrilled to hear there was a fairy in her nursery. Listen, Peter, said gleefully, I believe I closed her in the drawer. The sound of tinkling bells came from the dresser. Peter opened the drawer, and Tinker Bell, as angry as a hornet, flew out. She landed on the cuckoo clock. Oh, cried Wendy with delight. She is lovely. I wish she were my fairy. Tinker Bell frowned and spoke rapidly to Peter in the tinkling bell sound. That is fairy language. Peter could understand her quite well. What did she say? Wendy asked. She is not very polite, Peter replied. She says you are a big, ugly girl, and that she is my fairy, of course. She can't be mine, because I am a boy and she is a girl. On hearing that, Tinker Bell flew angrily out of the room. Wendy wanted to know more about Peter when he said he lived in Neverland with the Lost Boys. She was excited. It must be such fun, she said. But we are lonely, Peter said. There are no girls, you see, only boys who have fallen out of their carriages are sent to Neverland. Girls are much too clever for that. No girls, Wendy said. John would like that. He really despises girls. On hearing that, Peter kicked John soundly out of bed. That upset Wendy. How you may be captain in Neverland, she said, but you are not captain here. She softened her tone, for she knew Peter did not mean to hurt John, who did not even wake up. Since she meant to be kind, you may give me a kiss. I mean, a thimble, she said, remembering that Peter thought a kiss was a thimble. The moment she leaned forward for the kiss, Tinker Bell flew into the room. In a rage, she tugged Wendy's hair soundly. Ouch, Wendy said. Why did she do that? Did she not realize that Tinker Bell was jealous? Peter walked to the window. It's time for me to go, he said. Wendy was very disappointed. She was more disappointed when Peter told her that the real reason he had come to the nursery window the first time it was to hear the wonderful stories. Your mother tells you, Peter said. Now I must go back to Neverland and tell the boys the story she told about the prince. Oh, don't go, Wendy begged. I know a lot of stories. And there's Tinker Bell pulling on her hair. A selfish look crossed Peter's face. He grabbed Wendy by the arm and tugged her toward the window. Come with me and tell the other boys your stories, he said. Wendy held back. I can't. She said, I must think of my mother, and besides, I can't fly. I'll teach you, Peter exclaimed. But you could tell us stories and tuck us in at night. Then he smiled in a cunning way. Oh, we would respect you so, and he added that you could sew our clothes and make pockets, and for us we had none, you see. And you could sit and see a mermaid. Oh, Wendy exclaimed with delight. Can you teach John and Michael how to fly too? If you like, he said with his rug. Wendy shook his voice awake. Wake up, she cried. Peter Pan is going to teach us to fly. Peter took to the air. As the darling children watched with awe, it looked so very easy. Let me try, John shouted. He leaped into the air and fell down at once. Peter had not told the children one must have fairy dust blown on them first. He liked to tease that way. He quickly blew some fairy dust onto each child. Now wiggle your shoulders like this. Peter said with a wiggle of his shoulders, let's go. The children did as Peter said and immediately rose into the air. Look at me, he shouted. Look, Me! We shall go with you, Wendy called. There will be mermaids, Peter said, and pirates. Pirates? John exclaimed. Then what are we waiting for? Peter swirled around the room like a bird. Then the children weren't quite as graceful as that. Nana heard the commotion. She tugged at their chin. Oh my goodness. She tugged at her chin. I'm going to try that again, guys. I'm sorry. She tugged at her chain until it pulled loose. She ran straight to the house where Mr. and Mrs. Darling were attending their party. Something has happened at home, Mrs. Darling exclaimed as Nana bounded into the room. She and Mr. Darling rushed home with Nana at their heels. They ran into the house and raced up the stairs. The children laughed as they soared around the room. Suddenly, the bedroom window flew open, and a tiny voice from a distant star caught Peter's ear. "Beware," the voice said. Peter knew there wasn't a moment to lose. He flew. He flew into the night sky. "Come with me," he shouted, and John and Michael and Wendy flew out the window to join him. At that moment, Mr. Darling threw open the nursery door, but the room was as empty as a birdcage after all the birds had flown away. So that was the end of Chapter 3 of Peter Pan. We will continue that with Chapter 4 next time. Just a moment. And that was Peter Pan. Now we're going to read The Berenstain Bears Go Out to Eat. I love Berenstain Bears. They're so cute. Alright. Tonight is a very special treat. We are going out to eat. Sorry. Here's a menu. Take a seat. Order what you'd like to eat. Steak and potatoes, carrots and peas, spaghetti and meatballs, macaroni and cheese. On to Papa's favorite part, yummy desserts from a cart. Cheesecake, ice cream, apple pie. I simply don't know what to try. Next time maybe you'll listen to me. Order one dessert, not all three. And that was Berenstain Bears. I hope y'all are enjoying story time today. And I do want to say, before I forget, Happy Mother's Day to everyone that celebrate. And hope you're enjoying time with your family and everything. So let's move on to the next book. Just a moment. Okay, the last and final book. Frog and Toad are friends. So let's get started. Okay. Frog ran up the path to Toad's house. He knocked on the front door. There was no answer. Toad, Toad, shouted Frog. Wake up, it is spring. Blah, said a voice from inside the house. Toad, Toad, cried Frog. The sun is shining, the snow is melting. Wake up! I am not here, said the voice. We've all felt like that, right? Okay, sorry about that. And there is Toad knocking on the door. Frog walked into the house. It was dark. All the shutters were closed. Toad, what are you? What? Toad, where are you? Called Frog. Go away, said the voice from a corner of the room. Toad was lying in bed. He pulled all the covers over his head. Frog pushed Toad out of bed. He pushed him out of the house and onto the front porch. Toad blinked in the bright sun. Help, said Toad. I cannot see anything. All right. Don't be silly, said Frog. What you see is the clear, warm light of April. It means that we can begin a whole new year together. Toad, think of it, said Frog. We will skip through the meadows and run through the woods and swim in the river. In the evenings, we will sit right here on this front porch and count the stars. You can count them, Frog, said Toad. I will be too tired. I'm going back to bed. Toad went back into the house and he got into the bed and pulled the covers over his head again. But Toad cried, Frog, you will miss all the fun. Listen, Frog, said Toad. How long have I been asleep? You have been asleep since November, said Frog. Well then, said Toad, a little more sleep will not hurt me. Come back again and wake me up at about 1/2 May. Good night, Frog. But Toad, said Frog, I will be lonely until then. Toad did not answer. He had fallen asleep. Frog looked at Toad's calendar. The November page was still on top. Frog tore off the November page. He tore off the December page, and the January page, and the February page, and the March, and the April page, too. Then Frog ran back to Toad's bed. Toad, Toad, wake up. It is May now. What? Said Toad. Can it be May so soon? Yes, said Frog. Look at the calendar. Toad looked at the calendar. The May page was on top. Why, it is May, said Toad as he climbed out of bed. Then he and Frog ran outside to see how the world was looking in the spring. Silly Frog and Toad, huh? And that was the first chapter of Frog and Toad. I hope y'all have enjoyed story time today. And there's little Noah. So y'all have a great week, not just a good week. Much love, everyone. And happy Mother's Day to everyone that celebrates. Much love. Bye-bye.